Hi, I'm Matt with Main Street Medina, and welcome to another edition of Medina Minute. Today we're going to sit down with a couple friends and familiar faces from around the city of Medina and learn a little bit more about them and what makes Medina, Medina. Welcome back to another edition of Medina Minute. We're here with Troy Gerspacher of the Gerspacher Real Estate Group. Troy, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
You're one of those families that kind of has this epic history in town. How did the Gerspachers end up in Medina, Ohio?
Well, my grandfather, Mel Gerspacher, migrated, he migrated down from Parma to Medina.
It's a long trip. I thought you said like migrated from Germany or something.
Well, his grandfather did. So I don't, off the cuff, I think I'm 7th generation.
Okay.
But he moved down to Medina in the early 1900s. I think it was, I want to say in the 40s, his family, and they had a farm just south of town where Stop and Go is.
Oh, wow, okay.
So he was one of 4 brothers and a sister, and that's where it started. And then Jim had 2 children, Jim Gerspacher and Dave Gerspacher. Dave Gerspacher was my father, the late Dave Gerspacher. He passed away. And I grew up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did your family get into real estate development?
So Grandpa, Mel Gerspacher, started in the 50s and 60s. He had 3 jobs, a truck delivery, a postmaster, worked for the post office, and then he started getting an insurance.
Okay.
So worked in insurance, and then in the insurance business came across people who were building homes, and his brothers were in the trades at the time.
Guys.
And so then he got into building homes and then developing subdivisions, and primarily the residential focus back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of that was around the city of Medina?
Well, city is where he started, West Liberty, out Lafayette.
Okay.
And then he did some commercial type development. Most of it was in the city, but then in the 70s and early 80s, he developed one of the first residential real estate brokerages in the community, and most of the brokers that own residential brokerages now actually worked for Gerspacher back in that time frame.
So growing up, was it just kind of assumed that you were going to go into this, or did you have other dreams and then Dad said, okay, Troy, let's sit down?
Such a misconception, or people would assume that. So I grew up not ever thinking I was going to be in the real estate business.
Yeah. Nor
would I ever be living in Medina. I actually went to school for physical therapy. I have my education is in pre-medicine, and I was going to be a physical therapist. And I went to Baldwin Wallace for 4 years in that area, and then didn't get into grad school. Got into a sales opportunity in staffing sales and learned how to sell and leadership and management, and that led into commercial real estate. I learned, when I started doing well in that career, I started learning about how to build wealth and earn customers through sales. And then Jim Gerspacher, 2nd generation in the business, asked me to get involved in the business in 2004, and learned about wealth, learned about building it, and then so I've been there doing that ever since.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Really diverse background.
Yeah, really diverse. No. So you started in pre-med. Where did you want to go with that?
I wanted to become a physical therapist. I had some tragedy happen to my knee in football in high school, and it was my whole senior year of football was taken away from me. So I was really motivated to go into college and learn how to help others. I enjoyed studying all the sciences, biology,
Okay.
physiology, and so I wanted to become. I was trying to get into either being a physical therapist or medical sales.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
Now you have other members of the family that work with you or work in similar.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys all in competition? Like when the family gets together at the holidays, are you swapping stories, or is it a partnership?
Yeah. If I could back up, my grandfather never had this grand scheme of this long-standing commercial real estate firm continuing on.
Okay.
Jim Gerspacher created the commercial real estate in early 90s, and we've been that focus ever since.
Yeah.
And so then I came and I got involved in 2004, and then I took over the company in 2007 from Jim.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of switched roles. I took ownership, and he just became more of a agent and more of a retired type position. So I've been doing that ever since. Todd Gerspacher, my older brother, runs our residential property management division and our apartments that we run and operate, Forest Meadow Apartments, or Forest Meadow Villas, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So,
How do you get away from it all and relax? Like, how do you turn your brain off real estate and take the family and just, what do you do?
well, we're getting into all kinds of things. We really enjoy Southwest Florida, so a beach and a chair and a beer in my hand,
There you go.
staring at the ocean with my kids playing around and messing around. My wife loves shelling, so we're really enjoying that.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, we got a used RV, so we've been
Nice.
doing some traveling up to Michigan.
Yeah.
We're going to do Tennessee this year. I've gotten back into four-wheeling with
Okay.
my son.
Oh, how cool.
So we've gone into West Virginia and gotten out and done, so we're doing a lot of outdoor things.
Yeah.
Try and shut it off, but sometimes when you're operating a company or you're in different investments and operating real estate, you try and shut it off. And there are weekends I designate where I will not look at my phone.
Sure,
So,
yeah. How is it, we bought a camper, it's not an RV, it's a camper last year.
Sure.
And even just driving at 40 miles back and forth, I'm still not used to it. How do you drive an RV through the hills? I mean, we've talked about going to the national parks and freaking out about going up and down and through tunnels and everything. Or just do it.
You know what's beautiful about the RV is you can't really get around anybody fast.
Okay.
So you're really stuck in that lane. And so you need to put it on cruise control, and it's actually a really relaxing drive because you can't get around people fast anyways really quick. So you're stuck in that lane, and I find myself relaxing more because I'm trailing something and I'm driving this big thing and it's awkward. So it's actually a much more relaxing drive than
just tooling along going through.
and you have an
That's
excuse to
awesome.
be slow.
I love it. I love it. You said you mentioned you like the beach and then your wife likes to shell. What's dream trip? Where would you love to go?
Dream trip. We talked about Hawaii. I want to get to Sedona.
Okay.
I'd like to get to Colorado in the summertime.
Nice.
So anything where we're out there investigating nature and the animals and things in the ground, and my wife forces me to do that. She's got a passion for it, and my kids,
very cool.
we got to be exploring all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
So, like eventual retirement, just drive the RV across country?
Yeah, do that and harass my kids if they're in college, like show up on people like at their colleges and embarrass them that their whole family's
Just pull
there.
up, big sign on the RV.
Or friends' front yards, where you can just,
That would be awesome.
like what's his name in Christmas Vacation, just kind of hooking up
Yeah.
in the front yard and
my gosh.
making a scene.
Couldn't see you doing that
Not
at
at all.
No. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in Medina in your time here? I mean, it's gone from a pretty small town to not a metropolis, but kind of a thriving city. What's some of the biggest changes that you've witnessed?
I think first of all, we are so fortunate here. I think there's not a lot of egos between private business and government.
Okay.
And so we work amazingly well. I think in your time, since the Great Recession, some wonderful things that have happened around the squares. We've repurposed old uses with new uses. We've got restaurants and wineries. We've got uses that people want to come up and be a part of and actually go in and shop. So that's been wonderful. I think allowing apartment or high dense apartment type development to occur around the retail uses has been a wonderful trend, that you need people here to support all the wonderful retail, especially the smaller ones in town. And so those have been wonderful changes, and I think preserving, just making smart decisions with preserving green space where it's necessary. Our park districts do an amazing job of preserving the right green spaces around the retail and then and the housing, and not being so, well, this is how we used to do it and we can't change.
Right.
So the ability to adapt, we've done really well, and I'm looking forward to more positive things happening on Court Street, where I think Medina Township and the city can allow more housing to happen, which will also bring new retail to that area. I think, people in Brunswick and Strongsville don't necessarily come down here, so if we can do a better job of good things happening on the north side, it's going to trickle into even better retail. All the good stuff that we want to enjoy either goes to Strongsville or Fairlawn because of the retail density there. So in order to compete with that, we've got to do more things like that.
So is Gerspacher still, are you actively developing residential properties as well?
We do. We're focused on 55 and older apartments, or making acquisitions of existing apartments and renovating them.
Which is huge in the city right now and all around us.
Yeah.
So many. Why has that market taken off here?
Which one, the residentially?
The 55 and older. What's the right term? Is that active seniors?
Active adult, independent living, 55 and older.
Okay.
I mean, I'm 47. I'm almost 55 too.
Closer than you to that,
so
but yeah.
55 is kind of the new 35, I think.
That's true. That's true.
But I think your question was what?
Why are we getting that population coming to Medina? I mean, we're not Sedona. We're not Florida.
So Medina County in general, there's a lot of leadership that works in Cleveland and Akron, and they live here, and they want their families to be here. So when you want mom and dad to move back and you want them to be in a good community, you want them to be within a half a mile to a mile of you.
So they can babysit, right?
Basically, yeah, keep an eye and babysit us for sure.
What's your big dream or vision for the city? Whether it's something that you would like to do personally or something you want to see develop, or the north side?
I think if we can continue to preserve, well, first of all, continue to be open to change and being flexible with uses and mixed use type development, going up Court Street, so you've got a mix of really good retail and you allow more housing to come in around that retail, so it buffers maybe the more rural single family stuff all up Court Street. You're going to see an expansion into the south of town, the expansion of that retail and that housing. So if we can keep good mixed use development and we're not operating out of zoning that was developed 50 years ago, I think good things will happen, and I think we've done really well because a lot of the older families that have been here 50 to 100 years have remained here, have instilled a lot of good values, just being good people, hardworking, humble, little egos, and a servant style type leadership, and keeping our values. I think that would be my goal. There's just a lot of good people here.
Very cool.
Yeah.
When you and the wife decide you're going to go out, what's your favorite place? If it's in the city, where do you guys go? Where do you go for a beer and dinner? Like what's your go-to?
The city, downtown.
Yeah.
If we could do Time, or we could do House of Hunan or Public 17. Have some food and some drinks, and then concerts on the square.
Nice.
That's where we enjoy spending time for
Very
sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
All
Grab an ice cream.
Yeah. Troy, I appreciate your time. Thanks for the history lesson. Thanks for your vision.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, man. We'll see what happens in Medina in the next 20 years.
Sounds good.
Beautiful. Thanks so much.
All right. Appreciate it.